Hello friends, you're with the Lonesome Gamer, and today I'm going to revisit Dungeon Universalis. And it's been a while, I don't know, 2 years or so, that I did that long playthrough of this game, and also did a long review, 2-hour review. And I was pretty impressed by it. And, well, now some time has passed, and I mentioned that I wanted to change some things. This game gives you really such a strong foundation, and it allows you to house rule things, to modify things, so that in the end you end up with something that is a little more to your preferences that maybe the game was in the first place, although it already was a fantastic game. But yeah, I want to share these modifications that I did, and so the idea is I'm going to do a fairly long and probably pretty dry and boring video now with most of the rule changes that I did, and after that I then want to play through 2 or 3 quests, and maybe that is then a little more interesting. But I think if you want to be, maybe some people want to be inspired by what I did here, by what I changed, and then it makes sense to explain it in a reasonable way and not just during the playthrough. So there were 3 main points that I wanted to change. The first one, and I think many people had that problem, there is no analog dungeon generator, and also no analog campaign generator. And so that was the thing that I changed, and I use the components of Dungeonquest to randomly generate a dungeon. So if you don't have it and you want to use this method, I'm afraid you have to get that. But it's a great game on its own. And yeah, I also came up with kind of a fairly simple way to generate your own simple campaign. The second thing is I want a shorter campaign overall. So yeah, that's a thing. I have a shorter campaign, and I changed therefore also the hero development, because that has to be faster, so that your heroes can be quite powerful toward the end of the campaign. And then the third thing is I changed the loot concept. Until now you could find coins in the dungeon and then buy stuff in the world, in the shops and so on. That totally changed. You can basically not buy anything anymore. You're going to find the stuff in the dungeon now. And there's a lot more randomness and chaos. Many people don't like that, but I love it. Okay, I want to start with the campaign generation, and that's actually really simple. So I took one of the 2 maps that we have until now, excuse me, and I'm hoping for more, by the way. I really wish that eventually we get at least paper maps for these missing pieces here. We only have 2 now, and I really love to have one day map of the whole continent. That would be just great. And so I simply randomly generated 10 locations on this map, and it's very easy because you have here these numbers, I don't know, 50, 57 and 62 and whatnot, and you can simply roll dice, 2 dice, I don't know, a 10-sider and a 6-sider or something should do it, to randomly determine any regions here. And I ended up with 3 quests for a beginner party And 2 of them are already solved, so I removed the markers. And I simply use this marker here for a beginner's party quest. And you can see now my group is now standing next to this marker. And then I got 3 quests. I'm using these markers here, kind of, well, medium quests. Then we got 3, these here, these dark eyes. These are the advanced quests. And then I got 1 final quest here, sitting here. And the difference is, at the start of the game, you have only access to these starting quests. Once your group has 70 value points, if I'm not mistaken, let me see. Yeah, exactly. Once your group has 70 value points, you can access these medium quests. If you have 100 value points, you get access to these advanced quests, and you need 130 to tackle the final quest. And if for some reason you cannot access a quest because you don't manage to get enough value points, you've lost the campaign. Then I made a list of the factions that we have in the bestiary cards, and there is a second pack of bestiary cards that came with the expansion, or that you could order in addition to the expansion. So we have a lot of factions now, and the cards give you an introduction here, where the factions are located, where they live, and you also have here, for example, different types of terrain that indicate where you can find the members of the faction. And so I kind of wrote this all down a little bit, and then I just thought, okay, what type of factions could be, for example, in this city? It's the Pulse Empire, so I think there is a specific faction for the Pulse guys. So they are probably, I find the Pulse Empire here. And here in the north, what could be there? Well, that's also a city, so I made this a city of the Northern Barbarians, for example. I had a quest here in the Kingdom of Ascadia, so I had the human kingdoms here. If there is no city there, and it's kind of a wilderness location, like for example here in the forest, then there are a lot of creatures that you can find in the forest. Maybe, I don't know, just maybe undead, for example, or orcs, just as an example. So it's kind of inside the cities, you have these more civilized kingdoms, and then you have the monster factions or orcs or whatever more in the wilderness. You could also have pirates in the wilderness, for example, or I don't know, if there is a temple somewhere, there could be cultists. You know, you can make a mixture of some thematic idea and some dice rolling, and it's really easy to come up with that. And so now I have a list of where I wrote down what factions will await me in these 10 different locations. So for me personally, I don't care too much of these long written stories. For me, a campaign mainly really just serves the purpose that the heroes can develop, and that there is some connection between the different adventures. So, and this is the case with this method. The heroes have time to develop their abilities, and when I travel between the locations, I'm going to draw these encounter cards and just have some fun and some theme. So the interaction with the locations is now massively restricted. I realized I was not the biggest fan of that, and most of them I didn't use anyway. So all that is possible now following my rules is you can go to the inn and you can heal your fortune there, and yeah, your fortune, all your life points, all your mana, and you will also get a free healing potion if you don't have one. You can go to a physician to heal your wounds, your permanent wounds. You can visit a magical shop, a magical school to buy spells. Let me see. What else? You can go to a port to hire a ship, or to rent a ship, to buy a ship. You can go to the alchemist. We have now these alchemic ingredients here that also come with the expansion, and you can give the alchemist money and some of your ingredients, so then he will either kind of brew you a potion, a specific potion, or he might even craft you a powerful weapon. You can also go to a pet shop to get a pet, but that's pretty much it. It's no longer possible to buy items or potions or objects in these shops, except for at the alchemist when you give him these ingredients. And you get a potion at the inn, a healing potion. I already talked about character development, so that's also something that I changed and that I had to speed up. So first of all, I changed the skill, the way they get the skills a little bit. And I talked about that also a couple of years ago, that I thought about that. So first of all, you don't have to spend experience or development points anymore to gain skills. We have these 10 adventures, and I simply came up with a list here. So basically, let me see. After the first one, you will get a free skill. Every character gets a free skill. And you just do it following the standard procedure here. You roll here depending on your character's, I don't know, table, and then you get a skill. And I actually do it randomly. I draw a random skill of this specific type if it matches the character symbol. And the same will happen after the second adventure, where you get another skill. You don't get a skill after the third adventure, though. After the fourth adventure, again, you get a skill, but not after the fifth one. After the sixth one, things are getting more interesting, because now you are allowed, after you gained 3 additional standard skills, you are now allowed to improve one of your non-natural skills to advanced. And I'm going to make a list here. Maybe I'm going to post it on BGG. I have not done that yet, but my idea is just to give these skills an advanced ability, so that they get a little stronger, maybe a little more interesting sometimes, and it doesn't have to be terribly powerful. Just a little bit improve them. And yeah, that's my idea that I have here. And this avoids too much cluttering of new skills. You only will get 3 additional cards to your starting cards, and that's it. And I kind of like that. Otherwise, it's so hard to manage characters that have too many skills. And then after the 8th adventure, you can do that again. You can improve another skill from standard to advanced. And eventually, after the 9th adventure, before the final boss, you will be able to improve a skill from advanced to master. And again, I'm going to have to work something out here, but I want to have really powerful master skills here that can be game changers, that your hero really feels powerful. And it's just for one adventure, for the final boss fight, basically, and yeah. But I think that's cool, and I will do that. So again, during these 10 adventures, your hero will get 3 additional skill cards. One of them can be improved to advanced, and the other one can be eventually improved to mastery. In addition to that, the heroes will now buy development points. So they don't get development points as a reward for solving adventures. The heroes find money in the dungeon, just like before, and they will now purchase development points. And they can use the development points in exactly the same way as they did before, with the restriction that heroes can only improve one skill or one of their stats between the adventures, between each adventure. So you cannot give one hero, I don't know, 3 improvements or something. Yeah, so that's the thing, right? That's a big thing. That's the reason why you cannot buy stuff here anymore on the map in the towns, but instead you now buy development points, and you're going to find the loot. That's the big difference here. And by the way, the magician, I think if I remember the rules right, he had to spend a development point and $10 at a magical school to get an additional spell. Now, simply $10 is enough. You just go to a magical school, pay $10, get a magical spell, and an additional 2 mana. For every spell, you get 2 mana. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then you get your value points for the improvement, and yeah, that will then eventually give you access to more difficult adventures, or to advanced adventures. Let's say it that way. Okay, so now let's go to the quest itself, to the campaign, to the dungeon. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about the setup. It's a little bit different now, because I formed a few new decks. So basically, you can see there's different types of weapons and armor. So we have, I call them the common weapons, these one, and then the rare weapons, for example that one, that has this number there. And so in the basic rules, when you wanted to buy a rare weapon, you go to the blacksmith, you roll, and then if you rolled this number, this weapon was available. Well, you cannot buy at the blacksmith weapons anymore, so now we simply have 2 decks. We have decks of common weapons and decks of rare weapons. And these decks include the ranged weapons and the melee weapons. I just made a deck of common weapons and rare weapons and just shuffled it all up. And I did the same with the armor. We got and shields. We got a deck of rare armor and shields, and a deck of standard armor or common armor and shields. We have a normal deck of random items, random objects, just shuffle them. Then I have now a deck of, I call that the potions deck, but it also includes the new alchemy items that come with the expansion. What it does not include are the new potions that come with the expansion. They are separated. You cannot find the new potions. You have to go to the alchemist and bring your ingredients that you get out of this deck, and he will then mix you the new potions. Because it's a different back, these cards have a different back, I always draw here simply from the bottom. So this is what I call the potion deck, but it also includes the old potions and the ingredients for alchemy. Then we have the AI cards. They just work as before. There is no change here at all. Treasure chest cards, same thing as before. We got the special element cards, and I mixed them and have a deck for them. And what I did is I modified the furniture deck. And so I basically copied some cards and added them multiple times into the deck. So the idea is that a large number of the cards here is simply empty. So maybe a third or nearly half the cards that are in this really huge deck now are empty. And then we have some common furniture, like for example boxes and barrels, or amphoras, or a cupboard. And I don't know, I think I added like 6 or 9 cards of each of these specific common furniture into the deck. And then we have a little less common furniture, for example dining tables or beds. And I also added a couple of cards into this. And then there's the real rare furniture, like for example a magician's table or a sorcerer's table. And there is just this one card in the deck that was there before. So yeah, I came up with this idea of a large furniture deck where you have common furniture more often and then some rare furniture. I also added 6 special element cards. They have basically the back side of this now on the front. I don't know if I find one. Yeah, there is one. Okay, so this is now simply you draw that and then you have a special element. And well, if that happens, you of course draw from the special element pile. Then I added a card which is simply on the other side a joker, and that card is a reshuffle card of the furniture deck. And I have another card that is an ace on the other side, and that represents a treasure chest. Yeah, so that is my furniture deck. And now let's talk about the basic idea of a quest. All the quests will be basically the same from the main structure, but I think that's okay, because it's still interesting. So I talked about that I use the Dungeonquest model for a random dungeon generation. And so if you don't know that, it's a pretty simple thing. You have an arrow here. You simply draw a card. You decide where you want to go. You start out here in these towers. You start in a tower and you place a card like, I don't know, I say I go here. Then you draw a card and you place the arrow like this. Okay? And then you say, okay, I want to go, I don't know, here. And you draw the next card and you simply look for an arrow and there it is, and then you place it like this. Okay, so that's the way it works. And I thought about it, because for me, this was always the most interesting exploration of a dungeon. I think this game did it the best. This random dungeon generation. And I was thinking about why. And the reason is you have a destination and you have a timer. These two aspects make the exploration interesting. You want to go from here to there, to the center of the board, and you want to go to one of the exits in the corners back. You can go the same way back if it's a good way, but you can also take another way. And you want to do that, you have to do it before the sun goes down, before this time track is over. And that is basically why this game works and why the whole exploration aspect works so well. In other games, like for example Shadows of Brimstone, or the Dungeons and Dragons board games, or many other games, where you also have a random exploration, it's not that interesting. The reason is because it doesn't really matter if a room goes to the left or if it goes to the right. It's just for aesthetics, right? It's just that you have something going on. But it's not important for the gameplay in which direction the exit of the room goes. And it's often not a big problem if you have a dead end, you can simply move back. Here, it's a huge part of the exploration. It's a big deal. You can simply die if you draw the wrong dungeon tiles. And the fact that you have a clear destination where you have to end up and that you have limited time makes this a fantastic exploration concept. So the quests will look the following. You start out here in one of these outer rooms, and your goal is to go to the treasure chamber. In the treasure chamber, you have to fight some beast, some kind of animal or whatever. And there are these independent animals, basically, that are not part of a faction. And they are all, these are all champion creatures with the red value here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the legendary encounter rules that are explained in the first bestiary deck. So when you enter this, you basically draw 5 cards that match the terrain type you're in. So let's say we are in the mountains, and I'm just going to draw 5 random cards. Okay, we got here, we got a mountainous terrain. We got here a mountainous terrain. Let's see, we got here one. Okay, let's see what we got here. We want to have 5 cards. Just want to show that to you. We got a giant here, and then we got this. Okay, so these are 5 cards. And now what we do is we order them according to their value points. Okay, this is a legendary dragon here. That is 60. Then we got a giant, 25. We got, no, that's an Edhard, it says, 25. A giant, 20. A scorpion king, 18. And an armored bull, 12. Okay, and now we simply check how good is our group. If we are still at a beginner's quest, we're going to take the 4th card here. That is this one. So that's the Scorpion King. If we are at a medium quest, we would take the Giant. If we would be at an advanced quest, this would be Eckhart. And if it would be the final boss, then it would be a legendary dragon. And that's a very simple way to randomly determine your final enemy for a quest. So that's the thing. You go here. Here you have to fight this creature. And it's going to be a leader. So that means this guy will have multiple activations when you fight him. Then you're going to have a big loot roll there, and you're going to find a treasure chest in here, and then you're going to wake it back. You also get a free rest action here, and I'm going to talk about that. So you have a chance to recover there. However, the enemy, he will also regain some of the points that he started with, and he will have the option to reshuffle his deck here, or to reconstruct the deck of the creature deck. Then on the way back, there is another threat, because now a champion of the enemy faction will try to hunt you down. So what you do is you mark the spot where the sun tracker is when you leave the chamber here. You mark that with this time slot, or with this time marker here, and then you move your sun tracker. You continue on your way back, and now whenever you start a new turn, you will roll a 20-sided die, and you subtract the turns that went by from 20, and then if your die roll is, let me see if I get that straight, is equal to or higher than the result, then you will be attacked by an enemy champion with a group, with a large group of dudes, and he will also be a leader. So for example, let me explain that a little bit. Let's say I moved like 4 spaces from here, and I roll a 20-sided die, and so that is a 13. So that means 20 minus 4 is 16, so I'm okay, I'm safe. And I will continue this every turn and roll if I get attacked or not. If I would have rolled a 16 or an 18, for example, I will get attacked by this enemy group. And it's getting more and more likely the more the time passes by. However, you never subtract more than 6. So if you roll lower than 14, you're always safe. So it is possible that you get attacked on your way back, but it's not necessarily the case. And I think that's kind of interesting. So the guys that I'm talking about here that might attack you, and that's something we also will then, when the attack happens, determine randomly, are the champion creatures of the actual faction. So for example, if I'm fighting against the human kingdoms, it could be a paladin, a noble, a great master, or a warrior priest. And they will then appear with the enemy spotted value. So just like when you spawn the final boss during the standard campaign, it's basically the same thing here. You come up with one of these guys, and you will increase its life points according to what he has left here. Just like the final campaign, when you spawn your leader, he might get additional skills. You use again the standard rules for that, and then you will spawn additional enemies according to the enemy spotted table on the, there we go, on the human kingdoms. So you roll a die here, and then you have, I don't know, maybe here, what is that? A warhound, 2 soldier with a broadsword, and 2 shooters with a crossbow. And in addition, you might have a paladin, I don't know, with, I'm not sure, maybe with 15 life points or something like that. And this is going to be a leader, so he will also have multiple activations. Okay, and this is then the battle that you have to possibly fight on your way back, although it's not for sure. And eventually you hope you can make it out alive. And that's the main structure of a quest. So the AI will start with 2/3 of your value points, and they will regain again 2/3 of your value points once you are in the treasure chamber. And they don't have to pay for this beast, and they also don't have to pay anything for this other battle, so for the boss and its group. Just for the extra skills. Okay? Okay, so now let me show you exactly how this random dungeon generation works. So let's assume you are here. That's where you start, right? First of all, and this is kind of a special room. In this room, you don't have a trap yet. So you can simply enter. And what you're going to do is, you're going to draw a tile. Okay, let's not take this one. It's a special one. That's a pretty special. Ah, come on, another special tile. We get to this. Okay, let's say this one here. And you say in which direction you go. I already mentioned that. You place the tile here and you enter this. And you can see now there are tiles that have just one entrance, basically a dead end. There are tiles with two entrances, with three entrances, and with four entrances. Now, tiles with one entrance are considered small rooms. Tiles with two or three entrances are medium rooms, and this one here with four entrances, even though one goes to a wall, this is considered a large room. So now you enter here. And then for a small room, you draw one card from the furniture deck. For a medium room, you draw two cards. For a large room, you draw three cards. So let's see what we get. Okay, that would be the Joker. That means reshuffling. We don't do that right now. So let's draw again. Empty, the first card. Then we got a room with irregular surface. Okay, so that's heavy, difficult terrain. And a third card. Okay, that would be a special element. If the special element is in there, that means there is no other furniture in this room. So what we're going to do is we now draw simply from the furniture, from this deck here, and that says burning floor, and we simply follow now the rules that this element shows us. I don't know, I haven't done that, so there might be things that just don't work with this random dungeon generation, but most of them do. Okay, so there is just the burning floor here and nothing else. So let's say we're good with that. We managed to cross this somehow. Then what we would do, we would now determine, let's say I want to go here. So we would roll now for a trap. And okay, there's no trap here. So we can open the door and enter the next room. Okay, that is again kind of a special room. It's this kind of chasm. I don't want to have that. Usually there are not that many. Okay, this is here. I ignore the art. I simply enter this room. So it's a medium-sized room. So again, we're going to draw two cards. This is empty, and this is again empty. So we don't have anything specific. That means now we roll if there's an encounter. We didn't roll for an encounter here because this room didn't allow any monsters. But now we have to roll for an encounter, and now there would be a fight. Okay, so what we would do at that point is we would take a medium-sized room, which are these. We would simply set it up, and we come from a large room. So we would take a large room, a medium-sized room, and we would place our group here, and then we would randomly determine what the enemies are that await us in this room. So you don't play on this board except if you have an encounter. Because otherwise you constantly have to find new tiles and all that. This is no longer necessary. You simply take a medium tile and a large tile, and it doesn't really matter what tile it is, and you just place them here, and then you have your fight. If you have furniture, you're going to take the furniture and you might just randomly place it here on the board, or you just place it in any way you like, right? So yeah, most rooms will have some type of furniture. Now let's say we did the combat and we continue. So let's say I want to go here now. Well, it's the only way I can go. So let's see if there's a trap. No trap. Awesome. So I'm going to draw a new card. Okay, and again, man, I had 3 of these chasms. These are pretty rare. Crazy. Okay, let's say this one here. And again, this is a medium room with 2 exits. So we draw 2 cards and we have beds and a water well. Okay, cool. So we would now find here the beds and the water well if necessary, if we have an encounter. If we don't have an encounter, we would now simply follow the instructions that are written here. We would search these things and we would interact with the furniture, maybe even without setting up the board, because it's not necessary. It's only necessary if you have an encounter. Okay? And that's how it works. That's how the whole thing works. It's really simple. The goal is to get here. Depending on the size of the room, you draw these cards. If you have a corridor, there are corridors in here. I'm just wondering where it is. Just have to find one. There, for example, this is a corridor. It's a smaller one. Then it's a corridor, right? You then draw a corridor, and in a corridor there's no furniture. So you just enter, you check if there is an encounter, and if there isn't, you can simply move on. Otherwise, you fight in a corridor. And yeah, whenever you draw furniture or special elements, you will interact with them, and you only set up the boards if you actually do have an encounter. Okay, let's talk about the passage of time. So it's a little bit different. For example, during a fight, there is basically no time going by. You have very limited time. The people who play Dungeonquest know that. So time goes by whenever you whenever you place a new tile, basically, and enter a new room. That's when time goes by, or when you go back into a new room or into an old room that you already discovered. So whenever you move here on the board, time goes on by 1. Also in corridors, by the way, which is not the case in the normal game. What you can do is you can build bridges using a rope and these pickaxes, and you can build bridges, for example, to cross these things here, and that costs you an extra time to do that. Okay, so that is something that costs you time. You can rest, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. You can recover your wounds. That will cost you actually 2 time, so that's expensive. And let me see. You can search a room, for example, for a secret door. If you want to do that, that also costs you 1 time. And you can try to disable a trap. That will also cost 1 time. You don't have to disable traps. You can basically take the damage if you want to save time. Okay, now I want to talk about loot and the whole searching thing. So there's basically 2 situations where you search. You can search bodies and you can search rooms. Now if you search bodies, you just follow the normal rules. You search a certain number of dice depending on the creatures that you encountered. And again, following the rules, if you roll a 4 or higher, you get a coin for every 4 or higher that you roll. And remember, coins allow you to buy development points. For every 6 that you roll, you get a loot card, you get an objective, a special, a random object, a common object. I don't know how these are called. For every 6 that you roll, you get a common object to a maximum of 2 common objects per encounter. In addition to these things, in addition to the coins and the objects, you will get, if you rolled 2 5 or 6s, you get a random card from the potion deck. If you rolled 3 5 or 6s, then you roll again. And on a 1 to 4, you get a random common weapon. On a 5 or 6, you get a random common shield or armor from this shield and armor deck. If you rolled 4 5 or 6s, again you will roll again to determine if you get a rare weapon or if you get a rare armor / shield. And if you roll 5 times a 5 or a 6, you found a magical object. And whenever you find a magical object in the game, you're going to roll again, and if you roll a 6, it's a relic. And believe it or not, I managed to find 2 relics during my first quest. Because I was really lucky, I found not too many magical objects, and I managed to roll twice a 6, so that was really awesome. Yeah, so that's how I changed the loot quite a bit. It's much easier to find stuff, but I think it's still not that easy. And considering the fact that you cannot buy magical objects anymore, you can only find them, and it's just random stuff, right? It might not be that useful for you. I think it's still interesting. By the way, it is possible to sell the stuff that you find in settlements for half the value. And then, of course, again, you can use the coins to improve, to buy development points. Now, there's also the option to search rooms. And the main reason why you want to do this is if you get, for example, stuck at a dead end or so, because you want to find a secret door, which allows you to then simply basically move to a space that you choose, to an adjacent space. You can move through the wall. And you cannot move back through a secret door. You can only use it once, just like in Dungeonquest. And you can also only search a room one single time. So the way you do that is you roll 3 6-sided dice, and if you roll a 6, which I didn't, I found a secret door. And that will cost time, by the way. So the passage of searching a room costs 1. So yeah, that was pretty bad. In this case, I found a secret door, pretty awesome, and I can go into the adjacent room. In addition to that, again, everything a 4 or higher, everything that shows a 4 or higher gives you a coin. And then if you roll 2 5 or 6s, you're going to roll again, and on a 1 to 4 you find a common object. On a 5 or 6 you find a potion, and if you roll 3 times a 5 or 6 you roll again, and on a 1 it's a rare armor, on a 2 to 5 it's a rare weapon, and on a 6 it's a magical object. So yeah, that's my little search table that I have. If I search rooms, usually I only search rooms to find secret doors, because you have very limited time in this game. So the last thing I want to talk about is a few special actions. I already mentioned that you can rest. That costs 2 time. And then each hero can heal 3 of his wounds. The spellcasters can remove 1 mana from a spell and take it back. And each hero can also heal 1 fortune point. And there is a free heal action without costing any time after you fought the battle in the treasure chamber. The other special action is running. So if you realize, man, I'm running out of time, this is not looking good anymore, you can start running through the dungeon. You cannot, and that is a pure gamey thing, you cannot do that on your way to the treasure chamber. I have the restriction that you can only do it once you reached the treasure chamber. For whatever reason, it's just a gamey idea. So you can try to run back. And mainly the way that works is you have, just like in the standard rules, you have a -2 perception, so detecting traps, and also when you're attacked by enemies, it's going to be much harder now to win the initiative roll. And of course you have to roll when you try to enter a room and you try to open a door that you have not opened yet. You're going to have to roll for a trap, but you also have to roll now whenever you run through a room. So usually you don't have to roll for a trap when you run through a room, but and only if you open a door. But now you have to roll also when you run through a room. So that kind of represents a little bit the idea of the safety zone in the main rules. So the advantage of running is you can basically run through 2 tiles during a single turn. Now, if you are attacked, you have to stop, obviously, and you cannot interact with furniture when you run. And yeah, that's the thing. So you can run if everybody has at least a movement of 5. If someone of your group does not have a movement of 5, you can only run once, and then you have to make a normal turn, because you kind of have to wait for this guy, right? So if it's a dwarf or something, you can only run once, and then you have to make a normal turn, and then you can run again. If everybody has a movement of 7 or higher, which is really unlikely, but this guy, for example, does, you could actually run 3 squares with a single turn. But yeah, I don't think this is not going to work with this group. But this guy could do it. Okay, this is it. This is actually it. I know it's a ton of stuff, and it's probably not very well explained, and but I just wanted to give you an overview on everything that I've changed here. And it's not really much play tested. I just did 2 missions, but it worked surprisingly well. I thought it was really awesome. It was a lot of fun, at least for my personal taste. And I'm going to show you now in the following videos a couple of missions, not many, maybe just 2 or 3, I guess, and just, show you how it plays, and that it's actually pretty cool. And that's not the reason that it's cool. It's not because I'm so super cool. The reason is because the game itself, the basis is such a strong foundation that it's so easy to improve things here, or to play around with it and house rule things. Okay, so yeah, I hope to see you in the next videos. Bye.